It was the night before Christmas. Across America, families gathered around fireplaces, exchanged gifts, and celebrated peace. It was 1945. The war had ended. The world had survived the unimaginable. In the small mountain town of Fayetteville, West Virginia, the Sodder family was doing the same. George and Jenny Sodder were tucking their children into bed, the warm glow of the tree still flickering in the hallway. Laughter echoed. All felt calm. By morning, 5 of their children were gone. No bodies, no evidence, no answers. And what followed was not just grief, but a decades-long mystery that weaves together fire, silence, and secrets. This is the story of the Sodder children. George Sodder had come to America as a teenager from Tula, Italy. Hardworking and disciplined, he started a trucking company in West Virginia and married Jenny, a fellow Italian immigrant. Together, they built a life, a house, a business, and 10 children. They were respected in town, stable, independent, proud. But George had strong opinions. He was fiercely critical of Benito Mussolini and made no effort to hide it. In the 1940s, that was dangerous. Some members of Fayetteville's Italian-American community still supported the dictator. Tensions began to simmer. Threats were made. Strange visitors arrived. One man warned George directly, "Your house will go up in smoke. Your children will pay." He laughed it off, but his family would later wonder if those words had been a warning. It was December 24th, 1945. Jenny cooked a large meal, and the family gathered to celebrate. 9 of the 10 Sodder children were home. The oldest son was away with the military. After dinner, 5 of the younger children begged to stay up and play with their new toys. Jenny agreed, telling them to turn off the lights, lock the doors, and go to bed soon. She then took her baby and headed upstairs. By all accounts, everything seemed normal. Until just after 1 a.m., Jenny awoke to the sound of something hitting the roof, a loud thud, followed by a strange rolling noise. Then, the unmistakable scent of smoke. She rushed downstairs to find the hallway filled with thick, choking blackness. Flames licked up the walls. George sprang into action. He and Jenny managed to get 4 of the children out, but the remaining 5 were nowhere to be found. They tried to call for help, but the phone line was dead. George ran to grab the ladder, but it was missing from its usual spot. He tried to start his trucks to use them as a platform. Neither would turn over, despite working perfectly the day before. Flames consumed the staircase. The upper floor became unreachable. Desperation turned to helplessness. Neighbors arrived, trying to help. Buckets of water, shouts, screams, chaos. But the fire had already taken hold. By the time the fire department arrived, 7 hours later, there was nothing left. The home was nothing but ash and rubble. The 5 Sodder children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, had vanished. No remains, no bodies, no trace. Local authorities quickly ruled the fire an accident. They said faulty wiring had caused it, that the 5 children had died in their beds, consumed by the flames. But Jenny refused to believe it. She began running her own tests, burning chicken bones, cow bones, pork bones in her wood stove. Each time, bones remained. She contacted a local crematorium. They told her that even in a 2,000-degree fire, bone fragments always survive. The Sodder home had burned for less than 5 hours, and yet Not a single trace of 5 bodies was ever found. Something didn't add up. More strange details began to surface. The family had received threats before the fire. A man offering life insurance had warned George again that his house would be destroyed. Another visitor commented on George's fuse box, saying, "That's going to cause a fire someday." George had just had the wiring inspected. It was fine. After the fire, a telephone repairman told the Sodders the line hadn't burned. It had been cut, deliberately. The missing ladder, it was found 75 feet away, thrown down an embankment. And then came the sightings. A woman claimed to have seen the Sodder children looking out the window of a passing car on Christmas morning. Another said she'd served them breakfast at a roadside diner, and one man swore he'd seen them with unfamiliar adults at a motel. No leads were ever confirmed. Then, in 1967, more than 20 years after the fire, a letter arrived. It came from Kentucky, no return address. Inside was a photograph of a young man. He looked to be in his 20s and bore a striking resemblance to Louis Sodder, who had vanished at age 9. On the back were these words: "Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie, a little boys, A90132 or 35. It made no sense. The Sodders hired a private investigator to trace the letter. He went to Kentucky and was never heard from again. Refusing to give up, the Sodders erected a massive billboard along Route 16. It bore the faces of their 5 missing children. Thousands of people saw it each day. Beneath the images were these words: what was their fate? Kidnapped? Murdered? Alive? Leads came in, tips followed, but nothing ever led to the children. The FBI eventually closed the case. Local authorities held firm. The children had died in the fire. George and Jenny disagreed until the end. So what really happened to the Sodder children? Was it simply a fire with no remains? Unlikely. Even modern forensic experts agree. Bone fragments should have been found. Was it a kidnapping planned in advance? It's possible. But who would take 5 children and never be seen again? Some believe it was a mafia-style retaliation for George's political opinions. Others think it was a cover-up, an insurance fraud, an abduction ring, even government interference. There's also a darker possibility, that someone wanted the Sodders silenced, and their children were used as leverage. We'll never truly know. George Sodder died in 1969. Jenny passed away in 1989. Still wearing black every day. They never rebuilt the house. Only a garden now grows where their home once stood. To this day, no remains have ever been found. And the question still hangs in the air: what happened to the Sodder children?